Good morning and welcome to our Business Surrey webinar this morning. We're just going to wait for a minute or so to let anyone else come into the meeting from the lobby. So just bear with us for a second or two. Right, team, I think we'll get started. So thank you for joining us this morning. So my name's Renee. I'm going to be hosting this webinar this morning. I work for Business Surrey, supporting businesses across the county to thrive and grow. Business Surrey is a service delivered by Surrey County Council. And today we're working with colleagues from across the council actually to share some programmes of support for organisations around wellbeing and making sure that your team and staff are fit for work. Lucy, do you want to move on? Click to the next slide. While we're waiting for Lucy to move the slides on, I wonder if you would like to make use of the chat function. We would love to know who you are, who's joining us, and whereabouts in the county you are, and what sort of organisation you work in. So if you could share that in the chat, that would be great. We're using a chat and Q&A function this morning. So that is where any questions you've got for our presenters, you can put, and we will make sure that we keep an eye on that and that we wrap up any of those questions towards the end. So we're going to ask our presenters to speak and then we'll do Q&A at the end. Here we go. So these are your hosts for today. So I've already introduced myself, Renee, and we've got Lucy behind the scenes, also helping with the administration. So we're both from the Business Surrey team. First off, we're going to have Jaquetta from the Active Surrey team, who's going to be talking about the Travel Smarter grant, and she's also brought in Debbie Wise from Fidelity International, who is going to outline a bit of their experience of working with Active Surrey. Then we're going to have Tessa from Surrey County Council talking about the How Are You Workforce Wellbeing Programme, and then finally we will have Luke from the who's the Communities and Prevention Manager, talking about the WorkWell programme. So as I said, there's going to be an opportunity for Q&A at the end. So please use the chat and the function. We're also going to be using the polls function a couple of times during the presentation just to keep it interactive. Our speakers are going to be speaking probably for about 35-40 minutes, and then we'll have that Q&A. Just to let you know that we are recording the session today. All the delegates' cameras are off, our presenters' cameras are on, and then what we will be able to do is share the recording with you afterwards in case there's anything you've missed. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Jaquetta then to get us started.
Thank you. Renee. Okay. Bit of an echo there. Sorted. Brilliant. Next slide, please. So I'm speaking today about the Smarter Travel to Work project. As we all know, physical activity is good for our health. And we all know that there are many physical benefits from being more active. And these spread to the workplace as well. If we're healthier, then we have better concentration, we're more productive, and we take less time off work. But almost 1 in 3 adults in Surrey aren't currently active enough. And a really big barrier that many people quote is time. Finding time is a big barrier. So the advice is to all of us to try and build physical activity into our daily routine by, for example, travelling actively to work, by walking or by using public transport. That's also a very active way to travel, because obviously you need to walk to the bus stop or the train station, or by cycling. So, Renee, if you could launch the first poll, please. We'd love to know, do you know how your team travels to work? Do you know? Or is it something that you haven't asked? So if you could vote now and submit your answer. So thank you. Oh, here we go. We're still voting. Any more votes to come in? Oh, we're doing quite well. So it's split half and half between those who do know and don't, but some aren't sure. So that is very useful, because if we go to the next slide, we know that 1/4 of people in Surrey live close to where they work, but they're still driving. And for many of them, there are good reasons. It's very difficult for people sometimes to fit in everything that they need to fit into their daily routine. But the fact remains that many more people could travel actively. So we know that physical activity is good, and we know that travelling actively is good. So it's just a case of putting up some posters, right? Wrong. What we know from the evidence is that we need to offer multiple interventions, because, not surprisingly, different people need different things, and they probably need lots of different things, because habits are really hard to shake. And the good news is there is help at hand and a process to follow that works, because there is step-by-step guidance available in the Travel Plan Toolkit for Employers, which is a completely free resource. It explains what a travel plan is, and it goes through the business benefits from productivity to sustainability, relieving parking pressure, and much more. Talks about how you can secure support internally, and it provides evidence-based step-by-step guidance and templates, from creating effective staff surveys to what to look for in terms of analysis when you're looking at the data that you've collected, what sections to include in your travel plan, and also how to create realistic targets that are based on the data but fit with your business, your organisation. The toolkit also includes templates for you to use. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's a staff travel survey template there for you. There's a poster template. You can tailor them to your own needs, but the basics are there for you to pick up and use, and lots of useful links and information. And it works. We know, for example, that the Surrey-based charity, the World Wildlife Fund, made use of this process when they were moving to a new office. That's a great time to help people change their habits. And as you can see, many people changed from driving by car, 63 down to 25%, and train travel went up massively. So yeah, an office move is a great time to change travel habits. So is starting a new job. So including travel information in new job packs is a great idea. But there are lots of great ideas, and all of these will be different according to your workplace. We're also developing a royalty-free photo library so that employers can use these images in your internal communications. And I'm delighted to say that we also have an active travel grant scheme. For any employer that has followed this evidence-based approach, grants of up to £5,000 are available to help put your plans into effect. The deadline is the 14th of November for your grant applications. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to get a phase 2, but bear in mind that we have a definite grant pot available now with a deadline of the 14th of November. Now I'm delighted to welcome Debbie Wise, Director of Corporate Services at Fidelity International. Based in Tadworth in Surrey, Fidelity International support their staff with their commuting. And Debbie's going to tell us why this is so important to Fidelity International, and is going to tell us some of the things that Fidelity have done. Over to you, Debbie.
Thanks, Chiquetta. Yeah, I mean, employee experience is such a key thing for us. And it's really important that we have able to retain staff, we're able to keep staff happy and well, and our travel plan is very much central to that. So in terms of Surrey, we have a campus in Kingswood. It's a very beautiful campus, a couple of thousand trees there, so lots of walking routes on the campus. But how do we get our staff to the site when everyone is so used to travelling by car? Because it's the easy thing. So why do we have a travel plan? Well, obviously from a planning perspective, we actually need one, so to meet our Section 106 obligations, but also from an environmental impact and to meet our CSR responsibilities. If we continually have those single occupancy car trips, it means that our emissions will continually increase instead of actively trying to reduce them. And I think by having a travel plan in place, we're actively showing that we're committed to supporting our ESG goals. We've touched on about well-being, employee well-being and retention. And I think it's really important to factor into any of our employees' kind of work day that, commuting is a stress. It's not always the most pleasant. You might be dropping the children off or dropping the dog off at dog care, or you've got grandparents to look after. It's just another thing to worry about. So we do have to think when we're bringing staff into work about how we can make their commute as stress-free as practically possible. I think the other thing is to think about is around where we are based in Kingswood. We're in a primarily residential area. And so we do have a local community impact, and it's important that we keep our stakeholder relationships as positive as they possibly can be, whilst trying to reduce the congestion on the roads at peak times. So if we could move to the next slide, that would be great. So the things that we've done in very, very high level, obviously we have an overall travel plan for the site. But one of the things that we have done is we provide local coach services, picking up from the local train stations. This has been in place for a number of years now. It's very successful. It's used by a lot of our staff. It's actually free of charge for our staff to use. They book their tickets through an app, so they're in charge of how they get to work. But absolutely, these bus services mean that we are reducing the congestion on the roads and enabling our staff to easily get to the office. The other thing we've done is made cycling to the campus much easier. So we obviously have secure cycle storage. We've fairly recently, upgraded all of our changing rooms and showers. They're actually very, very nice. Lots of lovely fluffy towels. So to kind of come into work, if you've cycled from a distance and then shower, and we have storage for both the bicycles and all of your belongings, it's very easy for staff to do. And then we also provide on an annual basis like maintenance free of charge, so people can get their bike serviced. And in addition to that, we've been working with Jagetta in Active Surrey around the loan of electric bikes. So that will be coming in spring next year. So we're very much looking forward to that. So kind of 3 key reasons why we have a travel plan and why it works: sustainability, efficiency, both in terms of staff commuting and cost, and definitely employee satisfaction. Thanks, Jagetta.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Debbie. So, in summary, supporting more staff to travel actively more often brings many benefits. So please think about downloading the Smarter Travel Toolkit today. Consider applying for an active travel grant. You can find all this information on the Active Surrey website under Your Community Active Travel for Workplaces, and discover more resources for active workplaces on that link too. These slides will be available and those links will be available to you after this webinar. And I'm here to give support and help. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Debbie. As a resident of Red Hill, I know Fidelity's offices really well. And actually, I think I can probably count some friends and acquaintances that work there as well. So it's really, really fascinating to hear about the work that goes on behind the scenes, because although it is a beautiful site, it is a pretty tricky one to manage, I would imagine. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we're going to hand over now to Tessa, who's going to be outlining the How Are You programme. So Tessa, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Renee. Hi everyone, my name's Tessa. I'm a public health lead in the health improvement team at Surrey County Council, and I'm really excited to be here to talk to you today about our How Are You workforce wellbeing programme. Next slide, please, Lucy. So just throughout my session today, we're going to have a really brief overview of the programme. We're going to have a chat about the programme structure and how that would look if you were to join, and then I'll let you know about how you can find out a bit more. Next slide, please. So we're going to start this part of the session today just by asking you firstly about how you're feeling today. So Renee has a word cloud, I believe. So if you guys are happy to share with us perhaps how you're feeling, and I think it's really important to make sure that you build in time to your day to kind of take stock of how you're feeling and provide yourself with space to really take notice. And this not only supports your own well-being, but can also help support those around you, particularly in terms of how we respond and take action following our feelings. So I'm not sure if you can all see it coming up, but we've got somebody who's feeling quite busy today. I can certainly relate with that within the working day, which is why these moments are really important to build in and make sure that you have, as we know that these can actually support productivity. People feel optimistic, energised, content, positive, so largely quite positive. Some people feeling tired today in this session, which I can certainly understand. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So why are we here to talk about this today? Well, we know that 17.1 million working days in 22-23 were lost due to work-related stress, depression and anxiety. And this actually represents more than half the working days that were lost due to ill-related health. We know that within 1 quarter in recent years, approximately 30,000 fit notes or sick notes were issued in Surrey. And we know that these were most frequently for mental health reasons. And over 50% of these actually lasted for 5 weeks or more. So the economic impact of people going off sick on businesses in Surrey is large. We also know that approximately 1 in 5 adults, so those aged 16 to 64, who are employed in Surrey live with a long-term physical or mental health condition. And as we've been working with businesses, we hear really regularly that this isn't representative within workforces. However, within the public health team, we do a lot of work around stigma. My team in particular do a lot of work around mental health related stigma. And we've heard from residents that they feel that there's less tolerance regarding work related sickness relating to mental well-being, that they feel that there's reduced opportunities and even in some cases unfair dismissals. So you can kind of start to build a picture of why people may feel that they can't disclose long-term physical and mental health conditions within the workplace. So it's really important for us to firstly be working to make employees feel that it's a safe environment to disclose long-term conditions, but also to make sure that we're supporting people who aren't necessarily disclosing those conditions so that people can really thrive when they're in the work environment. Next slide, please, Lucy. So there are different structured programs up and down the country. Most of these are run by public health teams, so aren't accessible to businesses based in Surrey. There are some national programs, but these often have costs associated to different elements. Although there are real benefits in different versions of these programs being run up and down the country in terms of the evidence base that has begun to build. So we know that if you were to join a workforce wellbeing program, you'll see results in terms of improvement on your workforce health, reduction in staff turnover, increase in productivity, increase in job satisfaction, reduction in absenteeism and presenteeism, improved recruitment processes. And there's also evidence to suggest that you'll have a saving of approximately £130 up to £5,020 per employee when interventions are implemented. Thank you, Lucy. So our programme is a fully funded two-step programme. So we have a foundation level, which is then followed by an excellence level. We've really heard from businesses that everyone's at a different point in terms of supporting wellbeing within their organisation. So we're asking everybody to start at the foundation level in the first instance. The programme itself is formed by a set of standards, which I'll talk about a bit more in a minute. But these standards are drawn from a large evidence base, and you're provided with a toolkit that will help to reduce mental health related stigma, improve social and organisational connectedness, and increase autonomy through fostering a supportive work environment and a culture of wellbeing within your workforce. Next slide, please, Lucy. These are just some quotes from some businesses who are part of the programme, but really the kind of driving factors to help support reducing staff turnover and also to help improve recruitment processes. So it's really about understanding how staff feel, but also about making sure that there are things that are implemented within the workplace to make the job enjoyable, to make it more enjoyable, more satisfying, and increasing reputation. Thank you, Lucy. So our programme offers you access to a training package that costs up to £3,000 per business. And for the first time, the public health team commissioned quite a lot of trainings relating to mental wellbeing. And for the first time, this will provide access directly to businesses to utilise that training package. So this will include access to mental health first aid training, suicide first aid training, making every contact count for mental health, and 5 ways to wellbeing. We will offer fully funded consultancy to support your business to reach the NICE standards that were released back in 2022 for mental wellbeing at work. You'll have access to events such as our quarterly Workforce Wellbeing Collaborative. We're currently co-designing these with businesses who are on the programme, but we envisage that this will incorporate a guest speaker around workforce wellbeing and a chance for questions and answers and peer support and networking. You'll be provided with access to a whole variety of resources relating to the standards and also signposting to services for those who are living and working within Surrey. And lastly, you'll be provided with support around the 2 key largest causes of sickness absence, so mental health and musculoskeletal health. Thank you. So, as I say, the basis of the programme is formed by a set of standards in which you'd undertake a self-assessment against. And to be able to undertake your self-assessment, there is a need for some insights gathering and understanding some information from your staff. And we know that not all businesses are currently doing this, or some are, but perhaps not in the same detail that the programme would look at. So in order to do that, you need to undertake either a survey for all organisations, and for medium and large organisations, also recommending that we undertake a focus group. We heard from businesses in the development of the programme that there were particular issues around capacity of undertaking some of these processes, and also concerns around anonymity of staff either not wanting to fill in the questionnaires or taking part in the focus groups, or that people wouldn't engage with the process because they're worried about their feedback being known who it was coming from. So we've taken the capacity on for the businesses. We will use an online platform that you'll have access to your own survey. We just ask for your support to encourage staff to complete the survey. The data would then be fed back to myself and my team, and we'd analyse that data and feed that back to you in a way that can be fed into your self-assessment, and the same for the focus groups. If you go on to the next slide, Lucy. And this is just some illustrative examples of what that would look like in reality. I'll talk a bit more about the standards in a minute, and these are split into different pillars. So the information will be fed back to you pillar by pillar in terms of how that looks for your self-assessment. So then you can feed that straight in, and we'll also give you some overviews of what that looks like for your business. Next slide, please, Lucy. So the self-assessment is undertaken on an online platform that we use called Few. The standards are set out in the 6 pillars on the left-hand side at the top, and as you click through, you'll be given the standard which you're looking at, how we're asking the business to evidence that standard, and then you'll be asked whether you meet that standard, whether there's work required, or whether you don't meet that standard. You'll be able to have space to upload or type in evidence around how you do meet it, and then as you go through, you'll be able to begin to build an action plan. So on the right hand side of the screen, you'll see an illustrative example of an action plan as it's being built. And once you've finished your self-assessment, we'll work with you to fine tune that action plan and make sure that aligns with your business need. Next slide, please. So the 6 pillars, as you can see on the screen, we have a pillar around effective strategy. So this is really looking at health and wellbeing strategy and how that is implemented throughout your organisation. And actually taking part and going through the process of the programme really incorporates the standards within this section. We have a pillar around the protective employees. So this is really making sure that there's a safe workplace that's supportive and compassionate, and really looks at the different elements of good work within your organisation and how that's impacted by wellbeing. We have a pillar around engaged and active leaders. So we know that in order for wellbeing initiatives to kind of be implemented, successful and sustainable change to be made within businesses, that we need leadership teams to be engaged and supportive. However, we also have a pillar around engaged and active workers, because we do also understand that workers need to be engaged for the initiatives to be successful. And we also know that employees can really drive and lead wellbeing changes within organisations. So hopefully the 2 pillars kind of align with each other, and we can take some of that pressure off of leadership teams throughout the process. We then have a pillar around a high awareness of healthy living. So this really looks at the individual things people can be doing on a day-to-day basis to support their own well-being, which includes both physical and mental well-being. And we provide you with the resources to be able to provide your staff with in order to be able to do that. And then finally, to bring it all together, we have a pillar around a culture of wellbeing. So this really looks at the culture within the organisation and different elements that can be implemented or fine-tuned in order to support this. Next slide, Lucy. So I know that that looks like quite a lot all in one place, but actually for some of the businesses that we've heard back on the programme, the depth of the programme is really what draws them to it, and that it's already a lot of things that people are doing within organisations, but really provides one place for people to be able to be considering everything alongside each other. Next slide, please. So I'm going to give you a really brief overview of the structure itself if you were to join the programme today. So next slide, please, Lucy. So in the first instance, you complete a commitment pledge. So this is a fairly simple form that's just got some basic details about your organisation and also some details of who would be leading your journey through the programme. And you filling in this programme would allow us the right details to be able to set you up on the self-assessment platform. Once that's complete, you'd let us know when you'd like your survey and focus groups to happen, and you'd support us with recruitment for those, but we would run and analyse the surveys and focus groups for you and feed that back to you. Once you have your results back, you'd be able to undertake your self-assessment on the online platform. And throughout this period, we'd be on hand to answer any queries you may have and support you through that process. Once that's complete, we'd work with you to fine-tune and prioritise your action plan. And we're asking businesses to undertake a self-assessment every 2 years and to be able to keep current with their action plan. And we commit to undertaking a yearly evaluation of the programme and share those findings with you so that you can really see the impact that the programme's having on businesses within Surrey. Next slide, please. Luckily for us, we're having some really positive feedback from businesses who are coming through the programme, and we're really working on a kind of bespoke basis. So we're supporting businesses to go at their own pace, dependent on their capacity throughout the programme process. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we're currently accepting businesses with 10 or more employees onto the programme. If you were interested, you'd be able to scan the QR code and just leave your name and a contact email or telephone number, and a member of my team would be able to get back in touch with you with the slides from today and with the commitment pledge. And if you had any further questions, you'd be able to ask those. There's also more information on the Healthy Surrey site. I understand the slides are going to be sent out, so you'll also have access to the links, and there's also a dedicated inbox that you can contact at any point if you have any questions. That's it from me today. Thank you for listening. I believe we're going to have questions and answers at the end, so I'll allow Renee to move on to Luke.
Tessa, that's brilliant. And yeah, just to reiterate, we're going to do some questions at the end, and all of the relevant links will get sent out to you as well. So you'll be able to get in touch with any of the programmes that you're interested in. Thanks for that overview, Tessa. I didn't realise that the programme, how in depth it went. So that was really, really, really interesting. So we're going to hand over now to Luke, who's going to talk through the WorkWell programme.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Renee said, I'll be talking to you about WorkWell. I will explain what that is. It might be a term you're not familiar with. In essence, it is a support service, one-to-one coaching that is fully funded for people to get the support to feel well enough to start work, stay in work, or return to work. So the context to this, how has this come about? You might have heard in the media, in the press, in the news, about Get Britain working, about lots of Britons not working. This narrative can be quite unhelpful and unkind, particularly when we say there's 9 million people that are economically inactive. Sometimes there's reasons for this. So we've got 2.8 million people in the UK out of work due to long-term sickness. And in Surrey Heartlands, we're issuing 10 to 11,000 fit notes a month. A fit note is what you get from your GP to sign you off sick. So we know there's lots of people unwell or have other reasons for not being in employment. So the Department of Health and Social Care and the Department of Work and Pensions come together to invent WorkWell, which is across 15 pilot sites in the UK, with Surrey Heartlands being one of them. Our neighbours, our nearest ones, are Frimley, North West London and North Central London. So just want to do a quick poll to ask you, have any of you seen our social media ads? Just click on the poll, yes or no, please. Let's see who's seen our advertising. So quite a few have, which is great. These are social media campaigns on Instagram and Facebook, and they work with people in the geography of Surrey. And then there's also some algorithms. If you've ever put in to Google anything like stressed at work, these might come up. So WorkWell, who is it for? It's for people aged 16 plus, and they have to live in Surrey or be registered with a GP practice in Surrey. And the reason I've made this one bold is because I know if you're working in organisations in Surrey, not everyone will live in Surrey. So it's a key thing to know. If you was to promote this to all of your staff, they wouldn't all be eligible if they lived outside of Surrey, unfortunately. And that's why I kind of mentioned our neighbours, because they might live in Frimley, which has got a similar WorkWell offer, or the North West London Integrated Care Board footprint, for example. They could be employed. We just go back a second. Sorry, that's me being excitable. So typically, a WorkWell participant is employed and they're either off sick or at risk of going off sick. Or they could be unemployed with health barriers to employment. And all of our participants must have the right to work in the UK and a national insurance number. So where can I access it? So up on the top right of this slide is our web link, where you'll find out more information about the service and our online referral form. Typically, people join the service by completing that online referral form. Now, you can complete that yourself, self-refer, you could refer a friend, you could even refer a colleague if you've had a conversation with them and they consent to you sharing their information with us. If there's also our physical hubs. So if you want to do a walk-in, we've got our physical locations in Epsom and Newell Hub, Spelthorne Jobs and Skills Hub, and Guildford Community Learning Centre. There are kind of bases where there's always work and health coaches for WorkWell. However, we do have WorkWell coaches aligned to each of the primary care networks. So primary care networks are a cluster of GP practices, if you didn't know. So they're aligned to those primary care networks. So you can see you could see a WorkWell coach in a GP or a healthcare setting or somewhere else in the community. So basically, we will come to you if you don't want to come to us in one of those physical hubs. What does it look like? So you've completed your referral form or you've walked into a hub. What happens next? You'll be assigned a WorkWell coach. What does that mean? Coaching means different things to different people. It's a generalist work and health coach. However, once you're on the pathway and you've been assigned a WorkWell coach that's assessed your needs, done a holistic assessment, you have access to specialist advisors. And these are in a multidisciplinary team of mental health advisors, physical activity advisors, and skills and employment advisors. And the reason we've done this, as Tessa alluded to before, the majority of the reasons people are signed off work are mental health. And then the second most common reason is musculoskeletal. So if you think about going to your GP and being signed off work with mental health, what do? You go home and watch, I wanted to say Jeremy Kyle. He's not on anymore, is he? But going home, sitting on the sofa and watching TV is not going to get you better any quicker. So having a coach and speaking to a specialist about what would be good for your mental health and being able to talk to someone could be really beneficial to getting you back well enough to thrive in the community and back at work. We have physical activity advisors because, as Jacquette has mentioned before, the benefits of physical activity, movement is good for your physical well-being and your mental health. And then we have skills and employment advisors. This could be because if your workplace is what is causing you stress, what is making you unwell, and you would dread the thought of going back to that workplace. Maybe you haven't applied for a job in 20 years or been to an interview in a long time. The skills and employment advisors are there to help you bring out your transferable skills. Think about what is meaningful and sustainable employment for you in the future. So this is just a case study just to bring it to life. There's a lot of words on this page. I do apologise. We'll share the slides and you can read it more in detail. But in a nutshell, this lady was a primary school teacher. She was signed off work because she was really struggling at work mentally. She was really anxious. She was experiencing low mood and she felt unsupported by her employer. And she dreaded going into work every day. So at the time, she was really, really unhappy and signed off work. She self-referred to WorkWell, was assigned a coach. That coach talked her through and mentally prepare for the meeting she was going to have with her manager, review the sickness absence policy. With the help of the mental health specialist advisor, they also reviewed what would be good for this individual. They created a daily plan, a weekly plan to help her with her physical and mental well-being. And they prepared her to get mentally and physically well enough to get back to work. So she went back to work with a phased return, but also with empowering her and working on her confidence and speaking to a skills and employment advisor. This individual was well enough to go back to work at that point, but didn't want to stay in that job long term. And with the support of WorkWell coaches and advisors, they was able to secure this individual with a new job that she was really, really excited to start for the next academic year. So that's in summary, we will move to questions, but my calls to action for you is if you're struggling in work or you know anyone that's struggling that you think would be eligible, so in Surrey, live in Surrey or registered with a Surrey GP practice, please tell them about WorkWell. Some small organisations don't have things like employee assistance programs or wellbeing initiatives like mental health first aiders. And even some that do, the bigger organisations that have all of these things, not every program offer is the same. And sometimes there's stigma between accessing employee assistance programs commissioned or paid for by your employer. So people like different things. This is another offer out there. So please tell them about this service if you think it would be helpful to them. Thank you so much. Back to Renee.
Brilliant, Luke. Thank you so, so much. So now there's an opportunity now to ask any questions. So you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. My first question, Luke, is about the WorkWell programme. And do people like GPs know about it, that they can make referrals as well? So that's what I was just wondering, you know, if I wasn't feeling well and my first port of call was my GP, in that location, are they sort of up to speed with what's available?
Yeah, they should be. I mean, it's hard to hit every GP when we've got over 100 practices, but they are aware. In every GP practice, there should be like posters and leaflets promoting the service. Now, GPs, when they sign you off work, they might want to just get you out of the room. They're thinking about your health. GPs don't tend to have a conversation around employment. So that's been a barrier for us. So GP might sign you off work and that's it. They're not going to continue that conversation. They're going to focus on about your health rather than getting you back to work. But they should all, as a long-winded way of saying, they should all know about it, and they do refer into us as well.
And do you see the majority of your referrals, are they self-referrals, or where are the majority referrals sort of coming from?
The majority of them are self-referrals. Now, that could be because someone might hear about it from their GP, but it's the client that fills out the form online. The GP is not always going to sit there and spend 10 minutes filling out a form for you. So they might have heard about it in primary care by their GP, but they are self-referring.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's brilliant to hear. Thank you. Jaquetta, I had a couple of questions for you actually from
I can keep it on here.
Got you?
I'll go on.
Yeah, brilliant. Could you remind us again of the deadline for the travel grant scheme? Because I was aware that there was a date and it didn't feel very far away.
Sorry. We're not hearing you there, Renee. Could you say that again, please?
Yes. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Jaquetta?
I can hear you, Renee.
Is that Tessa?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I've got a question for you, Tessa, about the how are you workforce wellbeing. We'll come back to Jaquetta in a minute and hopefully we've sorted that problem out. But I just wondered that structured program that you gave us an outline for, I wonder what this is. I know there isn't a usual, and that's what's difficult, isn't there? But I wondered if you know, from your experience, you know, how long does it take to complete the program generally?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing a really varied amount as people are working through the program, which we're really pleased that the program can be so flexible to accommodate businesses really at where they are. So we've got some businesses who are completing the self-assessment in quite a timely fashion and building an action plan that may last 6 months, particularly if you are quite far ahead on the journey of how you're supporting employee wellbeing and have a lot of initiatives in place. And then hopefully once you've completed the foundation level and moved on to the excellence level, that will give you that kind of extra push in terms of implementing more things moving forwards. However, there are some businesses and particularly some larger businesses who have struggled with capacity around the programme and have been working at a much slower pace through the programme, and some businesses that are really looking at a very long-term action plan for the foundation level. So yeah, really varied in terms of time, but we're very flexible in terms of what support we can offer and how long businesses can work through. So I think if you're in the room or listening to this and you're kind of worried about how big the programme looks, do be assured that you can really work through that at your own pace.
Brilliant. And can you give any examples of sort of typical actions or priorities that come out of the, I'm thinking out of the focus groups and going into the plan for businesses?
Yeah, so as you kind of saw, is such a holistic program that to pull out a couple of different actions is quite difficult. So we've had businesses who have some actions around physical activity within the workplace, some that particularly have actions around training, some that have actions around building in different recruitment processes to make sure that new recruitments are supported when they join. So it is such a holistic program that looks at well-being, that we're really making sure that businesses kind of sit down at the end of building their action plan to make sure that we're pulling out with them what's important to them as a business moving forwards. And I've just seen that there's a question in the chat as well, and it is free for employees with 10 or more employees currently. We are actually working to develop a program for micro businesses, and they're really keen to co-design what that would look like for micro businesses within Surrey. So if you are a micro business in the room or looking, do reach out on the Workforce Wellbeing email inbox, because we'd love to hear from you.
Brilliant. Yeah, because I can imagine there's a whole mix of sort of real strategic, holistic priorities and then some really sort of, tactical things as well. So if
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm just thinking of because Luke obviously mentioned the WorkWell program. It has got a focus on Surrey Heartlands, but there are other programs located sort of regionally. Is it the same with the How Are You program? If you're not in Surrey, can you still apply or?
Yeah, so currently we're offering it to businesses who are either based in or operating across Surrey. So if you're not based in Surrey, do reach out to us and we can have a chat with you about eligibility and how that would look. There are other programmes up and down the country delivered by different public health teams, but not kind of across the whole country, if that makes sense. It's very much, they're normally driven by public health teams, and it's very much about what's in their work plan and what they're looking at. So it's not a consistent offer across the country, and each program looks quite different to each other. There are some charities that offer kind of national programs, but these often have costs associated to their surveys, particularly, and to the training offers that we've incorporated as parts of the elements that are free for the program.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tessa. Let's see if we can get Jaquetta back online.
Hello, am I coming through?
Hey, can you hear me, Jaquetta?
I can.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. I was very aware that you mentioned a grant deadline that didn't seem that far away. Can you remind us again of what that date is?
Yeah, so it's the 14th of November. So for any employers that already have a travel plan, then there are grants available to help you put those actions into place. I'm very hopeful. I am hopeful that we're going to get a phase 2. So do keep an eye on the Active Surrey website and on our social media. But yeah, if you've got a travel plan already in place, please do consider applying for a grant by the 14th of November. I'll put my email address in the chat. So if you would like to get in touch with me and talk about what that particular idea is before you submit your application, I will be delighted to give you some advice.
And you talked about a toolkit which develops a travel plan, didn't you? If we've got an employer online now that doesn't have a travel plan, do you think is it too late, or is there still time to put a travel plan together and make an application?
A travel plan will take around 2 to 3 months to put into place, because it does follow an evidence-based approach. It's a solid, holistic approach. So it's something that will take effect. It will have impact, but it does take time. So employers will need to make dedicated staff time available, on average just a few hours a week. So if you don't have a travel plan in place yet, I would really urge you to visit the Active Surrey link and download that toolkit and approach me for support and advice and start work for that travel plan, because there are so many benefits, as we've heard today, from being physically active, the productivity, absenteeism dropping, parking pressures. Many employers tell me that they have parking pressures in Surrey. Sustainability. There's so many reasons why it's a really good idea to get a travel plan in place and keep that a live document. So I would really urge everybody to download that toolkit and keep an eye out, because as I say, I'm hopeful we're going to get a second bite of the cherry for that grant pot.
Okay. I wonder, Debbie, if we could bring you back in then, because it would be it was really great to see your really practical example of how Fidelity have been working it. I wonder if have you seen those benefits? Have you seen those positive outcomes?
I mean, I think they're multi-layer in reality. I think that having a travel plan in place, I mean, yes, there is a bit of work involved in having one, but actually the benefits are there is a significant amount of benefits. I think for us, it's really around making sure that our staff can easily get to work, and that they've got options around how they travel to work. So it's not just about them just getting in a car and screeching up to the gates and parking and running into the office. I think it's really about giving people options depending on what they're doing outside of work, so that it fits in with their life, lifestyle. And I think particularly when we've got staff here where we've got people early on in their career, so they might not have so much money when they're first starting off, giving those people options, so they don't have to have a car, they don't have to necessarily have lots of money to buy train tickets, etc. coming into work. I think it's been super important, and it means that we're able to retain these staff longer term, and not just kind of lose them out to kind of going on to other employers in the area or outside of area. So yeah, it's multi-led.
You didn't just describe me arriving at work this morning. So,
I think it does describe a lot of us, though. To be fair.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us. Chiquetta, can I just ask you? Let's just go back to the grant, because that is, that's the thing that's quite pertinent. I wonder what kind of interventions are going to be eligible for the grant. Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's very wide-ranging, because it will be tailored to the business's particular needs. But some examples, so I've been talking to somebody recently that would like to get some pool bikes for their business, so that staff who've got meetings relatively locally can borrow a pool bike and zip off on the bike and get back to the office nice and quickly. It could be improvement of pedestrian access within your site. So very often sites seem to be designed around cars, and people have to kind of make their way through a car park. Perhaps there are improvements that could make it safer and easier for people to travel on foot. Maybe events to promote walking, cycling and public transport, like a breakfast, a business breakfast, an active travel breakfast to reward people who do it regularly, and perhaps those who are giving it a try for the first time, right through to shuttle bus promotions, bus taster tickets, improved cycle parking, lockers. Really, whatever comes out of your travel plan as something that you can see from the staff travel survey currently is a barrier that is preventing people from doing what they want to do. So many people really do want to be more active in their daily lives. Then you can really target your plans around that evidence. And I'm very happy to receive applications on that evidence base, whatever it might be.
Okay. And is it just all businesses that are eligible, or charities, not for profits? I'm also thinking about, because I know that we've got a charity in the call, so that made me think about them. But I'm also thinking, now you've got my head buzzing about, when I go out to visit employers, sometimes they're on like a business estate, so I'm wondering if, and whether it isn't just, so tell me who's eligible, I suppose is the question.
It's really any employer, but so yes, charities for certain, not-for-profits, if they employ staff and they are eligible to apply, businesses, and I'm very, very pleased to speak to business parks as well about opportunities for a whole range of businesses located in the same space.
Okay, and are they any sort of size employers or anyone?
Happy to talk to anybody.
Okay, smashing. That's brilliant.
Model
Thank you
plans
so,
to
so much.
benefit every type of organisation. So yeah, very happy
Okay.
to give support.
That's fantastic. Okay, that's brilliant. I think I'll wrap things up. Let me just check. There's no more questions in the chat. So let's wrap things up there. I just want to say thank you to all our speakers today. There's the links for all of the programmes that we've had outlines on today. It would be remiss of me not to plug Business Surrey as well. So we run webinars and face-to-face workshops. So the best way to find out about those is to sign up to our newsletter. But we'll make sure that the slides and the recording are sent out to you, so you've got all of that information. And then it sounds like to me that Jaquetta, Tessa and Luke are more than happy to receive your questions and to have those discussions going forward. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our presenters, and I think we'll say cheerio for now. So thank you very much.